Do you ever pick up a game excited to play it again because of nostalgia and realize it may not be exactly what you remembered? Well, Dead to Rights for the original Xbox is one of those games for me. Hey, what's up everybody? Thank you for stopping by the channel. If you enjoy this content and you think it's worth your subscription, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Maybe leave a comment down below about what you think about this game and any games you want to see going forward in the future. So Dead to Rights was originally released as a timed exclusive for the Xbox in 2002. And I've been sitting here for a long time thinking that timed exclusives were something new, and I hate timed exclusives, but I guess they were around all the way back with the 6th gen consoles. Now the story behind Dead to Rights is that you play as police officer Jack Slate and his dog Shadow. You patrol Grant City, which is a fictional city that has way more crime than any city should have. When out on the job, Jack heads over to a construction site to investigate a crime and finds out his father has been murdered.
Slate, I have a gunshot victim. No pulse. I need an ambulance immediately.
Roger that. We'll notify Hope General. Any ID?
Victim's name is Slate. Frank Slate. He's my dad.
Now, like any murder story where a family member gets killed, the next logical step is to begin the hunt to find the murderer, and that's exactly what Jack does. So you go through a variety of levels in different locations, including jail, because not only do you have to find the murderer, you have to get through being framed for the murder. Now, personally, Dead to Rights is a game that holds a very special place in my heart, not because I remember the invigorating story or the gameplay, however, I do remember having fun with it, but because it was the very first original Xbox game that I had ever played. I got the original Xbox on a whim when I was out of town on a trip with my dad. We walked into a feature shop, which now in Canada are all Best Buys, and decided to buy after playing some of the games at the Xbox kiosk. As you know, the Xbox was the first entry by Microsoft into the console market, and it is a console that won my heart instantly. So as we left feature shop and began the long drive back home, I did what any excited kid would do, especially back then where the boxes had tons of screenshots of games that were available on the console. I stared at the screenshots and dreamt of playing some of these games when I finally got back home and was able to plug it into my TV. After daydreaming a little bit, I called up my brother, told him the good news that he had just got an Xbox, and told him to go rent some games so we could play as soon as I got back home. Now to put this in perspective, I was 11 or 12 years old at this time, and games with extreme violence were not games my parents really allowed me to play. But my older brother, being the great older brother he is, listened to me, took the initiative, went to rent some games, and I'm guessing without really disclosing to my mom which games they were. And one of those games was Dead to Rights. So that ended up being the very first game I popped into the console and started playing. Now for me, at that age and at that time, this game was more than just shooting. It was also very educational. If you've played Dead to Rights at all, it is a game that really deserves the mature rating. There's lots of games these days that get the mature rating, and you know, they may not be as violent or as bad as the M on the box really stands for, but Dead to Rights was definitely not one of those games. This game taught me about strip clubs, racketeering.
Augie Blatz had a regular room at the Den of Iniquity, a prime hotspot for criminals ever since the Flaming Mambo Lounge got struck by Italian lightning. It wasn't the sort of place you'd expect to find a beloved philanthropist like Augie Blatz, but then most people didn't know him like I did. He may have the city fooled with his goodwill money thrown at public parks and playgrounds, but apparently my dad was the only one interested in where that money came from. Drugs, mostly. Drugs and racketeering.
And murder.
Sorry, Jack.
I'd seen 100 bodies sprawled ugly in dark alleys and bright living rooms, but this one was different. This was my dad. The guy who looked me in the eye one day and told me he was innocent of the bad things he'd been accused of. And I believed him, because he'd never lie to me. And now he was dead.
But naturally, Dead to Rights is a game that I will never forget, and a game I'm interested in checking out now to see if it's aged well. Let's start off with the graphics. I need to preface this part by saying that I am playing this game on the Xbox One X because it is one of the original Xbox games that is backwards compatible and has the enhancements for it. So this instantly gives the game a brand new finish. It's almost as if you are playing a brand new game. It looks great just because of that. But when you look past the updated resolutions and the frame rate, you can definitely see that the character models are an early 6th gen console game. They're pretty rough in my opinion. One funny thing to note is that it seems like all the men in the game will always have their hands in a fist, But for some reason, when you enter the strip club level, the strippers have their hands open. Very odd. I'm not sure why this is, and I'm not sure who came up with this design, but it's just something I noticed right off the bat. Besides that, the environments are okay. I mean, they're nothing special. And I think overall the graphics are what you can expect from an early Xbox game, and not something I can particularly say has aged well. Okay, now let's move on to the gameplay, the part that I have to say I remember being fun back on the original Xbox, but when I look at it today, or when I play it today, I was very disappointed. I had to stop playing this game. I had to stop playing after completing the 3rd stage. And to put this in perspective, there's 15 stages. I know you may say, well, you didn't play enough of the game to have a really good opinion on this, but I'm really just picking up these games and playing them as much as I can to be able to determine the games are worth picking up or putting in and playing today. So I'll start off with actually some of the things that I actually enjoyed about the gameplay. I tend to have fun with games that are sort of bullet hells or mindless shooters, and you're just kind of blowing stuff up and just causing havoc. And I found that playing Dead to Rights kind of was going for that, although I don't think it really achieved it, but it was sort of fun switching from target to target and trying to kill them and killing them with different weapons. But that's about it, really. The controls are very antiquated because you are locking on to a target by holding RT, and then to switch targets you have to hit RT again, and then to shoot you're tapping A. So that alone I find is kind of like an old style of control that doesn't age well. There's so many better ways that could be implemented. And I mean, the original Xbox had the dual analog sticks, but I understand kind of why they did that, because there's no jumping. You can dive, but there is no A to jump, so A is just shoot. So the controls themselves are okay. I think they don't age well, but they're not the issue. The issue in this game by far is the camera. The camera is extremely frustrating from the first level, and as you move through the rest of the game, or as for me, moving through the 3rd stage, but I'm almost 99.9% sure that that does not change at all as you go through the rest of the game. There are so many times where you're just fighting with the camera more than you're playing. You're getting lost with where you are, and you're dying over and over again simply because the camera is so bad and also so slow to move. There's times where enemies are popping up behind you, and the camera adjustment with the right stick is so bad that it sometimes takes a long time for you to switch around and see them. Now you can turn your character around without actually seeing any of the enemies and just kind of lock onto the character and start shooting. So there's that, but I mean, it just takes away from the entire experience of the game. In those 3 levels, there was lots of hand-to-hand combat, and the hand-to-hand combat with the different AI enemies wasn't that fun. You're really just spamming A and X and holding up your guard, waiting for the guy to throw some punches and kicks, knowing that if you're holding up your guard, you're going to dodge them. There's also cover mechanics in this game where you can hide behind walls and you could duck. They're okay. I just found that once you latched onto a wall, it was kind of annoying trying to get back off. You kind of get stuck, and sometimes it wouldn't come off all the time, and it would slow down the game, and then there would be people popping up behind you and shooting at you, and you would just die. Now I don't know if this is because the game was just really hard or I'm just bad at the game, but I found once I was finally able to manipulate the camera properly, I was able to get through the levels. And that really just tells me that it's a lack of camera, a lack of good camera, and that it just does not age well. It's not something that you're going to have fun playing today because of the camera alone. So I really don't recommend trying this game out. The only thing I do recommend though is maybe if you have an Xbox One X and you do have an original copy, the original Xbox version of Dead to Rights, I would pop it in just to see how awesome the enhancements are. So there you have it, Dead to Rights. I do not recommend playing today. I do not think it ages well. Although this game has a lot of nostalgia for me personally growing up, it is not something that I had fun playing in 2020. Thank you guys all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. Let me know what you think about Dead to Rights in the comments below. Let me know if you've played it recently. If you're new to this channel and you enjoy this content and you think this channel will be worth a subscription, I would really appreciate you hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell, and I'll catch you in the next video.